together. So I want to thank all of you. As usual, we are recording this call for educational and promotional purposes. And so as I welcome all of you back, I'd love to have a little round of check-ins for about 30 seconds each from folks. And if you wouldn't mind to address either any questions, comments, etc. from the last session, or how was your empathy buddy call, or any short report from facilitating an empathy circle this week. So you have a lot of different choices as to what to cover in your 30 seconds. I'll go first with participants and then just see if we have any room for other folks to speak. Let me start with Kathleen, if I could.
Yeah, hi, thanks, Cynthia. Yeah, I had a great empathy call. It's really great to just meet and talk to more and more people with this kind of energy. And I had a smaller empathy circle. It was supposed to be 4 and it was only 3, and I can really see why 4 is better. Like it was good, but it just missed something without keep going back to the same people. So I really appreciate, that how 4 is a really great number to have. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And let's go to Gary.
Hello, everybody. I had a pretty quiet, relaxing weekend. I didn't do much because I've been working my butt off for the last couple of weeks. Because I'm at the same time putting together a program that's here at my job. So I've been pretty snowed under. So I just stayed in my house, laid in my bed, didn't even talk to my wife. So that's what I did.
Okay, great. Thank you, Gary. And Kendria?
Hello, everyone. Hi, Cynthia. I did not get to do an empathy circle, but I did have a really, really good call with Adelina. She gave me a lot of great tips. And so we did our call yesterday. So it was really good. So I'm looking forward to our last session together today.
Thank you so much, Kendria. And Melissa?
Oh, yes. Thank you, Kathleen. Hello, everybody. Yes, my buddy wasn't available, but I was able to have a buddy call with Anne Jordan, and it was wonderful. It's so nice to be able to connect, even though we come from different cultures. We have this, you have the same values, you respect each other, and it was really nice to get to know her, and hopefully we can connect again. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. I'm going to go to Rosie next.
Hi, hello to everybody. Yeah, it was a really busy week work-wise. So I was able to have an empathy buddy call with Christine, and it was fabulous. And that's all I was really able to get done empathy circle-wise this week.
Great, thank you, Rosie. And Alfred?
Yeah, 2 things. One is Regina and I were not able to connect, so we'll have to try again. But in answer to one of your earlier questions about anything carrying over from last week, I was thinking to myself, and maybe we can talk about it at some point later, how do we integrate the oops and ouch moments, letting people know that in doing this work, there's going to be an oops and there's going to be an ouch, and create that space for that. Also, just because of our experience last week, I thought that maybe some thought about cultural competence or cultural humility or bias, some of those concepts or even learnings might be helpful backdrops for some of us, because I saw where different cultures, including myself, were receiving and seeing different things. And also a defense of the technique versus wait, don't you hear what's being said here right now? Not that you went through plan A, B, and C, but something else is happening here, and let's stop for a moment, or at least deal with it somewhere.
Thank you, Alfred. Christine?
So I had hi everyone, didn't say hi, but I did have an empathy group session with some of the folks I am in community with. It was great. I actually also had a challenge because one of them wanted to ask a question while doing the active listening. And I think for me, not having that in my mind, it's like this should be easy, no challenges are going to come up. And also when we're practicing the challenges, we have that as in the forefront of our mind, so we expected it, but in the moment, it's like when it happened, I'm like, okay, this is a challenge. But I was able to like move them back to, refocus the conversation. I guess I would love to see more on how folks actually do the challenges when that happens. But it was great. It was fantastic. The results were also amazing with the folks that experienced it, or the people who participated. I also had a buddy call with Rosie. It was awesome and fantastic. Love knowing about the work that she does, and also how she wants to incorporate empathy circles in her work. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Christine. And Dominica? Dominica, are you able to unmute and share with us right now? I know that she is having really bad connection issues right now. So Dominica, if you get a moment while we're doing other trainee check-ins and you feel like you can unmute, please just either unmute or raise your hand or give a symbol and we'll absolutely get back with you. It looks like, oh shoot, I'm so sorry, Dominica. You are most welcome to either, yes, come in, back in and out, come back in and just give me a signal and I'll, and you can certainly try to reintroduce. Looks like we have time for trainees so as well. So I'm going to first go to Adelina for check-in.
Hi. I had a lovely call this week with Kendria, and it was really interesting for me because we discussed around the questions that she had, and I could come up with my experience, and I kind of enjoyed that to be on the other side of the role. So yeah. It was great, and I also had a very interesting empathy circle regarding values that somehow turned out into talking about trauma, and for me it was pretty amazing. Thank you.
Thank you, Adelina. Let's go to Ralph.
Hello. I haven't done much with the circles because I got this breakthrough COVID. And so I'm a poster child for, of course, get your full vaccination, but whatever you've been doing to be safe, do lots more of it. Because I'm also the poster child of safety. I'm kind of like the unofficial health inspector in my area. And but I did have this wonderful empathy circle with an old friend. I mean, old friend, and it's amazing. After 50 years of knowing each other, we've just like just broke the Earth's orbit, and so this empathy circles are very powerful, and the intention behind them. So to use these in seriously invites exploring other dimensions with folks. So sometimes put on your seatbelts. Happy to be here.
Oh, thank you, Ralph. Linda?
This week was good. I had a empathy circle with a couple of friends, and it was supposed to be 4 and it turned out to be 3, and one person touched on a subject that I know was sensitive to one of the participants, and I was like, oh God, let's see how this is gonna go. But it kept going very smoothly, and even after we finished with the circle, the discussion just took off. You know, finally I had to say, y'all, I got to go. So, and I had a very, very good buddy call with Zapata. I see in this chat that he's having issues connecting, so I hope he shows up today, but that was very good. So all is good.
Great. And I can see that Dominica has rejoined us. Are you able to unmute and share?
Oh, it looks like I am unmuted. Sorry. Hopefully I wasn't causing a bunch. I'm like I'm on my phone and my computer right now. It seems to be working better on my phone. But yeah, it's really windy here today, so I don't know if that's why my internet isn't working too well. But hopefully I can still participate today. Yeah, I've been feeling very tired this weekend, and so I didn't get to connect with my buddy, and I feel bad about that, but I just knew I didn't feel up to it. But hopefully we can connect again at a later time. And I also didn't get to have an empathy circle, but definitely still plan to keep that in my realm and do it in the future.
Thank you so much. And I so appreciate your coming in and out so we could hear from you. And I see that Faithful has joined us. Faithful, would you do your 30-second share? Faithful, are you able to unmute and do a check-in with us now?
Yeah, thank you. Good to be here. My name is Faithful from Nigeria, Southeast Nigeria. Good to be here. I'm trying to get more knowledge on facilitation of Empathy Circle. I intend to be a facilitator for Empathy Circle Africa Extinction Rebellion. So I'm getting prepared. I believe this would equip me to be stronger and better in hosting Empathy Circles. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Faithful. Is there any other participant who did not get to speak? Is there any other trainee who did not get to speak? Perhaps just quickly, me then. I think I'm the last trainee. For whatever reason, my buddy call and Empathy Circle I had organized kind of fell through this week. There must be something in the air. I don't know what's going on, but I completely understand that when folks can't make things work. And so I am just super excited to be with all of you today and have I'm finding that for myself with practice, things are becoming more and more integrated for me as a train the trainers facilitator. So I'm just really enjoying that role. It looks like Sally just joined us as a participant. Sally, would you be able to unmute and just do a 30-second check-in for us?
Hi, yeah, I don't have electricity, and anyway, I'm still trying to get myself together, and yeah, so we didn't have electricity all night long. So but anyway, yeah, this is session 5, and I didn't want to miss it, and my husband had to use the phone. We both just woke up, so.
Thank you, Sally. Now, Edwin, since we have a few minutes, should I go to trainers or just ask?
Yeah, I think we have time for that. Yeah, great.
Great, wonderful. Well, Edwin, let's start with you.
Okay. Yeah, excited to be here. It's always sad when the cohort ends. we do have we're doing the intro cafes now on Saturdays, and we'll be doing it next week. So it's always a chance to reconnect there. So do join us. We'll be doing a empathy and democracy cafe on the 30th, and then with our local group here, and there's a Mobilize Berkeley community group that invited me to do an empathy circle on Saturday, November 6th. So we'll be doing that. So there's a lot of different projects kind of in the work. And so, yeah, kind of excited about that. So that's me. Thanks, Cynthia.
Great. Thanks, Edwin. Celine, how about you?
Well, I had the empathy circle from the course in Spanish for the Spanish speaking people from Spain and South America. That was lovely. And I did not connect with my empathy buddies. I put out to 2, but that didn't happen. And I had a wonderful time with family, which is where I can see my skills in action. So it worked this time. Yay. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you, Celine. Lou, how about you?
Thanks, Cynthia. Yeah, like Edwin, I'm feeling a mixture of sadness and excitement for today. Very happy to be with you for this last session, and a little sad that things are ending because I love being with you all, and there's so much to learn. And so I want to let everyone know that I run every other week, every other Friday. I run an ongoing support group for Empathy Circle facilitators, and all of you are welcome to come. And we just talk about facilitation and discuss stuff and role play stuff and let people learn from each other, provide a place where people can learn from each other in an ongoing way. And the other thing I want to share is yesterday I watched a talk related to a film that was just released called The Wisdom of Trauma. And I haven't seen the film yet, which I expect is fabulous, but the talk that I listened to, which was related to it, was fabulous. And if you go to the website for the film, you'll find those talks. And yeah, this one was on wholeness, trauma and wholeness, healing, and with Jack Kornfeld, and I forget the other people who are in it, but what a moving thing, and very much related to what we are doing here. So that's me.
Thank you, Lou. Larry?
Okay, got unmuted there. Happy to be here. Great to see all of you again. Had a great empathy buddy call this morning with Arrow Faithful, and very inspiring. Had a wonderful empathy circle on Sunday afternoon. Also very inspiring. I just love participating in empathy circles. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. And Anne?
Yeah, I'm really glad to be here as well. I've been feeling not very well again today. I thought I was better, but I'm a bit under the weather too today. So please excuse me if I'm not on top form. But I didn't want to miss seeing you all for our last session together. It felt really important to be here. It's something special that we do together. I had a really good buddy call with Melissa, and in a meeting with Faithful earlier in last week. So that was great too. Good, thank you.
Thank you, Anne. And I believe last but not least is Bill for a quick check-in.
I'm doing well. I'm very glad that we're starting to get some rain here in Northern California. I've been out in the firmament and enjoying myself. And also I want to recommend the immersive Van Gogh exhibition if it comes to your town. It's a lot of fun. Thanks.
Thank you, Bill. Did I miss any trainers? If I didn't, I believe that it's time to pass it on to Lou.
Thanks, Cynthia. So now we're going to do feedback. This is feedback questions from the evaluation form and also from the sharing this morning. So someone asked a question in the feedback form about legal liability, is legal liability something I should be worried about as an Empathy Circle facilitator? I have, in all the work that I've done, I haven't worried about it too much, but there have been a couple of times when I was doing conflict resolution work in a business. And I did have the people sign an agreement saying that, they were participating in this and they knew it might be emotional and they would take responsibility for themselves. And so, if you're doing something that's very sensitive and you're worried about that, you could do that. The other thing, and this is not so much legal as much as just kind of being responsible. When I was holding publicly empathy circles in my town, we eventually, after getting several people who were kind of troubled, decided to have the facilitators have a little card with all the social services contacts on it that we could give to people, so that if you had someone in your circle that was really troubled, you could give them information about where they could get help. And yeah, so that was a responsible thing to do. We're not responsible for, trying to fix that person or solve their problem, but, at least giving them the information made us feel like we were being responsible about people that we're having contact with. Second question was about, what if you have a person in your circle that just gets angrier and angrier? And my response to that would be a couple things. So generally people escalate when they're not being heard. So I would say that if somebody's getting angrier and angrier, they probably are not being heard. And so as a facilitator, you definitely want to step in and do take over the reflecting, presumably because the person's not being heard by whoever is doing the reflection. And I would say that, as a facilitator, if you take over the reflection and they're still not being heard, I mean, what I would do is I would eventually say to the person, well, I can see how upset you are, and what I am doing is not helping. I really am trying to hear you, but sounds like you're really not being heard. And so, maybe you want to go, maybe because this is not really working for you. So that's how I would manage it. Next was, as a facilitator, when do you intervene? The question about like, how do I know when to intervene? And that is a tricky one. That's something that you'll figure out more and more as you gain experience. I do think, for myself, kind of the pattern, I think I said this last time, was the first thing is to notice that something is happening that's off. And the second thing is to make a decision about when to intervene. And I think for me, the decision to intervene has mostly to do with what do I think the speaker is experiencing, because the purpose of this circle is for the speakers, people to speak and be heard. And so if the speaker is experiencing a lot of discomfort, that's when I would choose to intervene. If the listener, if the reflector is missing the speaker, I would let the two of them try to work that out, unless the speaker is really uncomfortable and experiencing, escalating discomfort. That's when I would choose to go in, because the important thing in that moment is for the speaker to be heard. So that's how I choose when to intervene. And the question of how to intervene, that's another question. And, the whole training is about, the challenges was about that. And certainly, you come to the Friday group. If you have more questions about that, we can talk about that. Let's see. So Christine, in your sharing, you mentioned a challenge that you thought worked out okay, but you had questions about it. Would you like to say what the challenge was?
Well, the participant, so when it was her time to reflect back, she was present. I saw that she was present, but she used more compassionate distinction, because she was trying to solve or resolve it with the speaker.
So she was kind of doing problem solving, not just
Yeah,
reflection.
right.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah. So Yeah. So what you want to do in a situation like that is name what's happening. I mean, if you can do it in real time, you say, you know, what you're doing is really trying to solve problems. You're offering advice or you're asking questions to try to understand the problem better. And that's not the reflector's role. So the reflector's role is just to reflect back what you understand the person is saying, not to try to solve problems or give them advice or even understand more about the problem. Just reflect back what you're hearing them say. And so that thing of naming what's happening and then asking them, inviting them back into the role that they are supposed to be doing, you know, tell them what you want them to do. And then see if they can do it. You know, if they continue to have trouble doing it and the speaker is getting really frustrated, then you would want to come in as a facilitator and say, so what I'm hearing is this. Is that what you were wanting to be heard for?
So let me just reflect that back to
Yeah, sure.
what I heard you say is that in that moment I can basically, you know, recenter the conversation and reiterate the process or the responsibility. But I also heard you say that I, as a facilitator, am able to take on that active listener role just so the speaker is heard in that moment.
If they're feeling really frustrated, right, and that's escalating, yes.
If they're feeling frustrated, but if they don't have any problems around it, should I take that on?
Then you let them work it out with the listener. If they're not liking what's happening, they can say something. I mean, I guess if the listener is really doing problem solving with them, you do want to interrupt that because you're trying to establish what it is we are doing in the circle. And so if you say people are not supposed to ask questions or give advice, and then someone does that and you don't do anything about it, then people are learning, well, I guess it is okay to give advice. I guess it is okay to ask questions. So yeah, so you do want to interrupt that. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much. Also, do you do any debriefs after the cafe circle or the thing with the participants or?
So if I'm doing an empathy circle with a group, I usually leave maybe 10 minutes at the end for them to reflect on the process. How was it for them?
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Okay, and then Alfred said in the check-ins, what about oops and ouch moments, and what about cultural competence? So that's a really big topic, and I'd love to discuss that more. We don't have time now, but I'd love if you came on a Friday group and we could have a whole session on that. That would be great to talk about it. I do think, yeah, I mean, the one comment I'll make is that I believe the structure of the circle as it functions actually takes a lot of that, I think what you're talking about, into account. But given that you've been doing the class and you're raising that, I'm guessing you think maybe it doesn't, or there are more things that could be done, and it'd be very interesting to hear about that. So I'd love it if you'd come in a Friday circle and we discuss it. I think it's a really important topic. And it's 10:30. Let's see. So the only other thing I'll see, and this was kind of left over from last week, was about conflict. What if there's a big conflict in the circle that develops? And I would say two things about that. So one, if I'm the facilitator and my sense is that the conflict that's happening is a conflict between two people that have a history with each other, and that's kind of the problem, I would ask them, you know, assuming that there are 2 or 3 other people in the circle, I would say, you know, this seems like it's something between the two of you, and I would ask that you try to solve, you know, work on this at another time, or get a separate circle for this. You know, everyone who's here did not come here to have you two resolve your conflict. So could you do that another time? Could you work on that another time? And that's if it's really disrupting the circle, their interpersonal conflict. And I would say that I guess that's all that I want to say about conflict right now. I mean, there's more to say about it than that, but that's all I'll say right now.
Lou?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Just, you were in our group I was in your group last week, and one of the things you said that was very helpful on this topic was about the circle not being able to hold that what was happening. So it was really not any one person or another, but that we couldn't hold that at that moment, and that was not the place to do it. I thought that was very helpful.
Great. Oh, you wanted everyone to hear that. That's why you're saying that. Yeah. Yes. So that's a situation where, actually, and this isn't even necessarily conflict. This could be related to conflict, but it could also be related to just something that's very charged. Like someone comes with something very charged, and everyone in the circle's getting upset about it, and you actually are knocked off center by it as a facilitator. That it's okay to say, without judging the person who's bringing whatever they're bringing, saying, you're bringing this thing and it has a lot of energy, and people are getting upset about it, and I'm actually having trouble holding the circle with it. And so while I really want you to be heard, there's not enough capacity in this circle right now to hold what you are doing. And so I'm going to ask you to leave or to change what you're doing. Could you express yourself with more care? And see what happens. Yeah. So thank you, Alfred. That's great. Okay. I'm giving it to Linda, I think. Yes. You're muted, Linda.
Right. Here we are, the 5th Empathy Circle. This circle is for integrating your experiences and learnings. It's also and gives us an opportunity to harvest feedback about the benefits of the training. So we'd like to hear from the participants what you will do next with the Empathy Circle training and practice and experience that you've had these last 4 or 5 weeks. So we have a couple of questions that we'll post it in chat. But the questions: what are your most valuable learnings and benefits from this training? That's one question. And what are your next steps with applying Empathy Circle and building a culture of empathy? So each participant will have 4 to 5 minutes to speak on one or both of those. And if we're ready, let me start with
No, we're going to go into the rooms now.
Oh, that's it. Yeah, I'm sorry. In the breakout, because I was thinking we've done this. Okay, in the breakout rooms, and you'll have 4 or 5 minutes. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it'll be up to the facilitator. We can do 5 minutes, I guess. So we'll have room 1, Linda will be facilitating, room 2, Cynthia, room 3, Adelina, and room 4, Larry. So
and we'll go until about 15 minutes to the top of the hour. And then we'll come back in here where we'll have plenty of time to debrief.
And we have, let's see, we have 60, 70, 80 minutes for this part. Yeah. So see you in the rooms, and there'll be a trainer in each of the rooms too. Actually, in one room, there'll be 2 trainers. So just a heads up for that. Here we go. Make sure we gonna move, automatically move. Yep. And here we go. Open all rooms. And Linda, your group stays here in the weight room.
Okay. All right. Fantastic. Oh, we're going to have some fun in here. Okay.
I looked down for a second. I looked back up. I said, "Deja vu."
Yeah. All right. So first of all, does anybody want to facilitate this circle? I'd be glad to step back and let you facilitate and keep the time and the whole bit. Okay, going once, going twice. No takers. All right. Okay. I won't throw you into the pool, but I thought I'd just, give everybody a chance. So we've been in these circles before. We know how it works. I will start off being the listener, and you have those 2 questions. Let me read them to you again. What are your most valuable learnings and benefits from this training? And how do you plan to apply empathy circles and building a culture of empathy? Oh, we got another one, Dominique. Okay, great.
Dominique just had dropped out. She's going to room 3.
Oh, okay.
She's on her way, I think. There she is.
Okay, she's been beamed up. And we didn't even need an expensive rocket either. Okay, here we go. All right, who wants to speak to me first? And you'll have 4 or 5 minutes. Again, I'll hold up, you know what? I'll just hold up my remote rather than the phone and get my time going here. And I'm ready to hear from somebody.
I will speak first if you don't mind, Linda.
Thank you. Love it. Okay, I'm listening.
So for the first question, what I guess what was the most valuable learnings? I feel like I learned so much more than, I gained so much more than what I really thought I would. Number one, my own listening skills. Most importantly, I think the process of this all is to slow down and be an intentional listener.
Okay, so you're speaking on the benefits of the training, and from a personal viewpoint and perspective, is you've learned one of the benefits is we have to learn to slow down and be an intentional listener.
Yes, and with me utilizing this more in a workplace setting, because I'm really, really big on workplace trauma. And I think we talked about this in our first circle, just our buddy call, the trauma that happens in the workplace. And I'm utilizing the Empathy Circle for a lot of employers that I work with.
Okay, so from a professional point of view, this is going to be a benefit for you because there's trauma in the workplace and it needs to be recognized, and you're going to use the empathy circles as you work with managers or whatever in these different companies that you engage with.
Yes, and I'm so excited about, I can't even tell you how excited I am about the Empathy Circle, simply because it's such a structured way for people at all levels to just listen. Take your hat off, take your title off, and just listen to me. And I've seen how people walk away in a work setting and they feel valuable. They feel valued because they have felt heard.
Okay, so one of the main thing you like about the Empathy Circle is the structure. That provides a process for people to be themselves, take off the titles, take off the hats of authority or whatever, and everybody is on the equal plane. And people, when they feel like they've been heard and when they've actually been heard, there's a calming spirit, they walk away feeling valued and validated.
Yes, absolutely. So for me, my next steps are just making sure that I would love to give back to this process and become a trainee, to become a trainer. So that's one of the first steps that I would like to do if my schedule permits. But at some point, I definitely want to give back to the process in that way.
Okay, and you want to give back by coming back and engaging in more where you can be a trainee and eventually a trainer if your time allows. But if you have to adjust your schedule, you will, because you really do plan to give back in this regard.
Absolutely. And secondly, I plan to keep doing empathy circles, continue to get better with the things that I know I need to work on with all of my buddy calls. And I was fortunate to be able to do all 4 of my buddy calls. And I got something from everyone that just kept building and building on top of each other. I plan to just work on the things that are my areas of opportunity and build on my strengths and continue to do the circles.
Okay, so not only the process of the circle, but the buddy calls, and you were able to engage in all 4 buddy calls that were assigned for each week, and you learned something from each one. You got a gold nugget from each buddy call, and you plan to use that with your personal development and keep growing in that respect.
Yeah, and I'm just excited to take this to different areas where it's needed, and I feel fully heard.
Okay, and you're going to take this because you feel so good about it. You're going to take this to different areas that you engage in.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. All right. Okay. All right. And now I will speak. And I will ask Alfred if he would listen to me. Alfred.
Yeah, trying to unmute there. My pleasure.
Okay. All right. What I want to speak on is the most valuable learnings and benefits from this training. The most valuable thing I've gotten from training is that I recognize I'm not as good a listener as I thought. And that it is an intentional process.
So I hear you talking about valuable lessons learned. One is that you're not as good a listener as you thought, and that it is a very intentional process.
Yes, it's a very intentional process. And sometimes people, I don't know what it is about me, but people like to tell me their problems. And I've always felt, because I have this psychology background, plus I think it's just part of me naturally, that I had to give suggestions and help them fix it.
Given your natural tendencies and your training in psychology, people tend to gravitate towards you to seek help or answers to their problems. Yeah. And you have that tendency to go right into that role.
Yes, yes. So one of the things I've learned, and it's like Kendra said, rather than rushing through or encouraging a person to rush through their story, we all need to slow down. I need to slow down in my thinking and, again, focus in on what the person is saying and not what I'm going to say in response.
So a big lesson and reminder is to slow down. Slow down how you're thinking, slow down how you're listening, slow down in the process, and just be there, be present.
Yeah. Because I'm familiar with, since COVID, they've advertised on TV how you can call in to therapists and whatever, and they have one category, they call it talk therapy, where the person is just, they have an opportunity to just talk. And I've always wondered, then what?
So that's a really big question you're raising because of COVID and these opportunities to call in and to just talk. That's a great opportunity, but the huge issue is then what?
Yeah.
What happens to that person?
Yeah. So this empathy circle, one of the things it's shown me is that there is a calming, relaxing feeling that I have experienced when I felt heard.
Wow. So a big finding for you and experience is the calming and relaxing feeling that comes when you have felt heard and been heard.
Yes. And so now I can appreciate when people say, well, I just want you to listen. And I can appreciate when people just want to tell their story, because it is something therapeutic about it. I know this is not therapy, but it is something therapeutic about the process.
So now you can really appreciate when someone says they just want you to listen, or a chance to tell their story, and that there's a therapeutic, I guess, this therapy, it's very therapeutic.
Yes, yes. Thank you. And I feel fully heard. Thank you. Thank you very much, Alfred.
Great. And thanks for sharing, Linda. And I'm glad that you feel fully heard.
right.
So am I the listener now?
You're the speaker now because you
Oh,
just listened
speaker.
to me. So
Okay, okay, sorry. So Christine, would you, I'm going to speak, or would you listen to me, please?
Sure.
Somebody, please listen to me. Okay. So my head was spinning when I read the questions about, what are my most valuable learnings and benefits from the training? And then I'll talk about that question, the other question in a moment. But I really had to pull in a lot of thoughts to be here in the room today.
So what I hear you say is that with the question of what is the biggest takeaway, you have a lot of thoughts about it.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and so and I like to write things down, and we went straight to the room, so I'm just gonna go with the flow.
Yes, and you basically your learning process is to write things down, and you're able to do so, and now is the moment for you to just flow.
Mm-hmm. So I think everyone's experience is unique, but some commonalities I've heard already in the room are, I'm not as good a listener as I thought I was. Or actually, I won't put myself down. I'll just say that I've learned that I could be a better listener with different techniques.
And what I hear you say is that there is definitely room to improve on how you listen with intent going forward.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and there is a kind of a mirroring effect. If I'm slowing down, then oftentimes the other person will be slowing down too.
And I hear you say that empathy, or active listening, has this mirroring effect within behavior. As an example, when you slow down, you also observe the same thing with the person that's listening to you.
Yes, and I think something magical occurs in the session or in the room because it's so listening is such an endangered skill, and it's very rare that someone could ever even feel that they've been listened to.
And you describe it as a magical experience because it's not something as common as practiced in our society.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, and it's a good reminder when in seeing the different roles. It's a good learning teaching experience to see if you're doing something that someone else borrows, or if someone's doing something that you borrow from. It's a good learning teaching experience in the process.
And I see you appreciate this symbiosis of learning and teaching, because you can adopt something new and also teach it.
And also, a true learning experience is what not to do and what to unlearn in the process. And I think that's an important process too.
Yeah, and you appreciate the things that need to be unlearned and the things that need not to be done in this space.
Mm-hmm. And going to the other question about the next steps, I really I'm going, I don't want to get rusty. So I'm going to try to practice as frequently as possible because you can learn things very well and then just let it goes to the side. And so I definitely will I won't let myself get rusty.
And I hear you say that you want to continue in practicing it so you don't lose it.
Mm-hmm. And I do, and I am intrigued and encouraged and feel heard in the larger room earlier about that whole notion of cultural competence and bias, and what we can do as trainers or facilitators to incorporate that into our own self-learning.
and you're interested in learning more and how to incorporate the learning within a cultural competent space and integrating it.
Yes, because I've experienced in some of the rooms or chats a difference of outlook or perception, and I think it's important.
And I hear you say that it is important given that we have very different take on life experiences.
Thank you. I feel very heard, and I appreciate your time, Christine.
Thank you, Alfred. Edwin, would you kindly listen?
Listening.
So the question of what are the most valuable learnings and benefits from this training really is about the, for me personally, it was the emotional listening. I think I got into a level where I'm more present and intentional and listening on a deeper level than just the surface.
So I'm hearing there that you have gotten into a deeper listening. It's more about an emotional, deeper listening to people than usual.
Yeah. And empathy is really, for me, is that. It's like to feel with other people. I think Brené Brown described it as empathy is to feel with others and to be with other people. And that to me was so significant as a distinction.
So that quality of feeling with others is something that's a real important distinction, meaningful distinction to you. And that's what you've gotten from the circle, is being able to feel more deeply.
Yeah. And the permission to actually be in someone else's space. I think it's such a privilege to enter in a space where you're welcomed. Where you're
And there's
allowed to.
it feels like a privilege to you to be able to, someone lets you into their world, into their space, and that feels really good.
Yeah. But something that I noticed from the last time that for my last empathy circle that I facilitated was that some participants were challenged by speaking. Like they're more of a listener, but they're so challenged by allowing people to hear their thoughts.
Yeah, some people are so used to just being listeners that they find it difficult to really share their thoughts and for their thoughts to be heard. And you observed that in a circle, and it sounds like it was a real insight, a real curiosity about that.
Yeah, I think it's not only the listening to be heard, but also the courage to speak is what we're training.
Yeah, so the circle is not just about being heard, it's about being able to speak too and share. So we're learning both of those ways.
Yeah. And it is courageous to allow people into our space. It is courageous to be able to connect in that level and to even choose that for ourselves, you know?
So there is a courage to be able to share who you are and let people in to who you are, and to share that yourself.
And how I'm going to use this training is to really, from the work that I do as a diversity equity consultant and also a coach, I've done listening a lot. That's a huge competence as a coach, but to empower people to do the same so they can incorporate that in their daily lives is so powerful. It's not only in the workspace, it's like this is something you can take in your relationships too.
Yeah, so there you can use this practice not just in your work life, but in your relationships, and you're wanting to spread it to these different areas.
Yeah, it's a relationship tool. I do believe that we're always in relationship with everything. We're in relationship with people, with our career, with our society, and just to be able to have that emotional intelligence. It's an emotional intelligence too.
So you're saying that we're always in relationship, and this is a tool for supporting those relationships. It's sort of a worldview of that we are in relationship versus just individualistic.
Yeah, yeah. And I feel fully heard.
Okay, fully heard. Great.
Thank you.
Then I'll speak to Kendria.
I'm ready.
Yeah, I think the empathy circle is such an important practice because of that it's relational. It's just not like most of the work on empathy is like you as an individual go out and empathize in the world, right? It has an individualistic viewpoint that it's described maybe because our culture is individualistic. But this is about, hey, we're in a relationship, we're speakers and listeners, and what's the quality, the nature of the empathy within the relationship.
So what I heard you say was usually empathy is just about the individual and their actions on empathy, but you really love this process because it's about the back and forth. It's about the taking turns to empathetically listen and go back and forth and be in relation with another person.
And there's also a exercise quality in that there's if neurons that fire together wire together. So if we're always if we get triggered and the neurons we go into fight mode right away, we just we keep strengthening those neural connections. But the empathy circle, we're strengthening the neural connections of listening, being present, being grounded. And it's just like exercise. You got to keep exercising and keep those neurons, the pathways get deeper and deeper. So it's an ongoing, lifelong, I think, practice.
And you believe that because this is the back and forth and your relationship with the person or the group of people, this provides exercise. It provides a mental strength, a mental and emotional strength. And it just gets better if you continue to practice and continue with the circle and continue with the practice of this approach. You just get stronger and better. And the person that you're in relationship gets stronger and better at this process.
And the other thing is like within counseling or therapy or coaching, people listen to others and support them, which is great and supportive, but it's really about, are they becoming good speakers with others and listeners? Is it sort of spreading instead of just like, I'm all beat up in society, I'm depressed or whatever, I go get get a little bit of empathy, and then I go back into the culture. This is saying, hey, learn this practice and spread the practice and change your relationships. So yeah,
So this is, you also acknowledge and recognize the benefit of, for coaches and trainers specifically, that there's a benefit to, being able to speak and then listen and speak and listen and spread this to where you don't always feel like you're the one, getting beat up, or you don't always feel like you're the one just having to put that emotional output and give so much. So it's a benefit that can continue to spread all over.
And it was also within the therapeutic. I think that's something that's missing in therapy. Therapy is sort of like emergency empathy, like, you're getting beat up in society, come get your empathy, get patched up. But it seems to me therapists should be learning how to teach the person to create empathy circles themselves, right? So that it kind of like spreads. Say, hey, you're having family troubles, maybe marriage, family counseling sort of tries to do that a little bit. But it's like, hold empathy circles in your family so you can listen to each other and kind of put the power into the individual and to kind of keep spreading sort of this mindset, listening mindset.
Okay, so you're saying that this is such an approach that it's not a Band-Aid approach. And
Yeah.
most therapists will give you a Band-Aid because it's such an emergency, or I need to talk to somebody right now, and then you walk away until you have to talk to them and it becomes an emergency again. But you really feel like therapists could utilize this as a tool for someone to put in their toolbox. So yes, I'm going to patch you up right now, but here is a tool so that you can take with you, and that you can take this tool and you can work it within the relationships that you have. So maybe when you come back, it's not such an emergency and you feel empowered because you're able to do something about it.
Yeah, I feel fully heard, and I love that metaphor. You really got me with that metaphor of the Band-Aid. That was right on the mark. Thanks.
All right, Linda, I guess we can start over if you want to.
Yes.
Okay.
You want me to listen?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
So I'm
I'm
gonna
ready.
go back. I'm gonna go back to, because I again, how excited I am about this process. And every time I hear people talk about the process, even in just this circle, I learn so much more. And I'm trying to be fully attentive. And at the same time, I'm like, I want to take notes. It's a lot. And this is why this is practice, practice, practice.
So this excites you and you want to take notes, but you have to intentionally listen. Note taking can be a distraction. Yes.
So with that being said, it gives me tools, which is why I use that particular statement. It really is a tool that you can use with, in a work environment. And I'm passionate about people at work, because as I feel that probably Christine and Alfred and probably all of you know, there are so many inequities that happen in the workplace, and they impact people. It impacts their pay, it impacts promotion, it impacts skill set and skills gaps. And so I'm really, really passionate about how we take this and help people to listen in the workplace.
So you see this, the Empathy Circle, as a valuable tool, especially in the workplace, because we all bring issues with us, and we all experience issues at work on many different levels. And sometimes those issues affect our livelihood, promotions, pay, the whole bit. And so this is, again, because you're so passionate about it, you see this as a significant tool that can be used in the workplace.
Absolutely. I see this as a tool to help create some work-life balance, because you do bring things home from work. You do bring things to work from home. And at times what I see is, which came first, the chicken or the egg? Are you home? Are you upset at home because things are not going right at work? You need people to listen to you at home, and you need people to listen to you at work. And I think when you have that, you're able to create some type of work-life balance for you, because work-life balance for me versus work-life balance for Linda could be very different.
Yeah, work-life balance is what we term as work-life balance can be different for different people. And our society, the way we work and live, especially with COVID now, and a lot of people, work and life is so intertwined. And so which came first with the issue in regards to the issue? Is it issues at home that you bring to work, or is it issues at work that you take home? But it's all interconnected in our everyday life.
Right. And if we lived in a Kendria kind of world, or a world that I would like to help create, I think that every day there will be an empathy circle at work. There will be empathy circles that people could come into and honestly talk about the competing interest that I have in my department versus what you have in your department. And while we may not get along every time because our agendas are competing with each other, but we're also expected by our managers and our higher ups to have these outcomes. Okay. But the relationship that we have, since we're in relationship with each other at work, they can be negatively impacted by our competing interests. And so I think if we had an empathy circle at work, people could just come and just listen. Just listen to me and listen to why I feel the way I feel.
All right. We have compete. What I hear you say is that if you had your way, if you could build your own world, it would be Kendra's world. And every day when you come to work, the empathy circle is part of the work environment. And you can see the benefit of it because everybody at work, or most people at work, have competing interests, and higher up, managers higher up expect for us workers to still be productive, even though they are having these competing interests going on. And so if you could have that empathy circle incorporated into work, then it gives everybody an opportunity, the people with the competing interests, an opportunity to be heard and hopefully more productive.
Yes, I feel fully heard. Thank you so much.
All right. Okay. I want to talk to Alfred. I think I talked to you before, but I'm gonna do it again. So like you said, is when we got the questions coming in, hearing Christina and then Edwin, I'm glad I was not the listener because things just started happening in my brain. My neurons and synapses or whatever they call it, everything was clicking. Blah, 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 blah. And so I want to piggyback on what both of them said because it sparked it triggered something in me.
Okay. So let me keep up with you here. Everything was good, not triggered. Everything was setting off in a good, positive way, and feeling, synapses, and so forth. And so you want to take from what you heard earlier from some of our colleagues in the room, and develop it more.
Yes. The empathy circle. Christina said that some people struggle with speaking, and I never thought about that. And that is significant, I guess, because I talk so much.
So very significant learning is what Christina had shared about some people, have trouble with speaking, and that you had not considered that because that's not your issue or your problem.
Yeah. And it is a relationship that's going on when we're listening and speaking. It is a relationship, and that's a good way. I think that's a good way to think about it. And it's also a brave space because in some of the circles I've been in, I was pleasantly surprised how some of the conversations got personal.
So you were surprised when those relationships got personal.
Yeah. Because I'm a private person, but it's pleasantly surprised when people start talking about some issues in their lives, or they went to a deeper level. And so I have to agree with what Christina said. It is a relationship between the listener and the speaker, and especially the speaker if they're not used to speaking.
Okay. And so that she feels heard even off to the side. It's Christine, not Christina. She put in the chat. So I'll
Oh,
acknowledge.
Christine, okay.
And I parroted you. So
Okay, Christine.
and she says that with a smile. And so yes, the whole relationship aspect is very important to keep in mind in this work.
Yeah, and then what Edwin was saying, because I am interested in how the brain works, especially from the mediation point of view. The fight or fright, the how the brain works when you feel threatened, and what's going on in the brain when you feel threatened. So, and I agree with him. If it's like exercising the muscles, if you don't use it, the neurons, deuterons, synapses, all of that clicking in the brain. If you don't use it, you lose it. And so this empathy, or taking the time to be empathetic or do empathetic listening, is a practice, and it helps develop your brain in that way.
So there's a lot there to put out. You talked about, from your mediation background, you've been trained a particular way. You understand how the brain works and how that applies to these situations, the fight, flight, flee. And really, these empathy circles and what we do here, it does take constant practice or continued practice to stay constant in the work and not get rusty.
Yes. So unfortunately, as human beings, we have to practice, some of us have to practice being empathetic. And these circles help you practice being empathetic.
So as human beings, we do have to practice being empathetic, being human as we are. And these circles provide an opportunity to be empathetic.
Yeah. All right. So you were the listener and you get to the speaker. Yes,
Okay. All right. Let's see. Who have I not? I'll go down the list. Right below me is Kendria. Have we worked together, Kendria? I'm trying to remember now. In the role of speaker to listener.
Not in this circle.
Okay. I got dizzy from everything here. So I'm the speaker now. And would you listen to me, Kendria?
Absolutely.
Okay. Hear me, please. Okay. So, a word that comes up for me at the moment, right at this moment, is humility. To really think about whoever is in the room, and to be humble and to be a true peer.
So the word that is alive with you right now is humility. And just when you're part of this room, part of this circle, to be humble.
And really to see everyone, regardless of experience, education, age, background, there's humanity involved here, and that we're going to come from different places. And this is a great opportunity to do that together.
So you're looking through a lens of removing everything that could possibly separate us, whether it's education or job title, and the one thing, and really looking at the one thing that we all have in common, is we're human beings, and to start the process at that point.
Yes, and also to expect the unexpected, both in myself and others in the circle. Something might be going on that day, or something comes up that we didn't even expect to get into or to come to the surface, and to be aware of that.
So to be aware, but to be open, which is one of the values of the circle, to be open, because something unexpected might happen, and it absolutely could happen if someone is going through something that day. So to be aware that that's a possibility, and to be open to the fact that it's part of the process.
Yes. And from the very beginning, I fell into there's a lot of habit involved coming into this work in the circle. And sometimes we have to move those habits aside, and Linda and others have spoken to that, wanting to help, wanting to fix, wanting to, be that person that people come to. We just have to be in the moment, be present, and push habit aside, and habitually in the circle, listen.
So to really be effective, again, and intentional in the circle, you're going to have to push the things that are just second nature to you aside, those things that are, a habit to you, wanting to help, wanting to fix something, and just simply listening and knowing that by you listening, that is you helping.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And I think what I really want to do going forward is take the time to dissect the website. People put a lot of time into all the tools and resources, and that's one thing I have not been able to do, or didn't just set aside the time to do. And I think that's going to be it means something more now after having gone through the 5 weeks. It's not just theory; I can apply it now. So I'm actually kind of glad I didn't use that just yet. But I think that's my next step. I think a huge next step.
And so your next step in progressing this empathy circle culture is to utilize the tools that they've created, that they've put out there. And you're kind of glad that you haven't really looked at the tools just yet, or really got too deep into them because you want to go through the process. So now this theory becomes application.
Exactly. And one of the things you modeled well in our talking right and listening right now is that it reminds me of bringing up those values to the forefront. I had my little cheat sheet for what the speaker role is and what's a listener. I think I'm going to have the values list up there too.
And now that the values have been kind of brought back up, because it was something we spoke about in one of the first circles, to make sure that they stay with you. They stay with you as you progress through this work that we're doing.
Mm-hmm. And this work and beyond. So I do want to thank you. I feel very well heard, and it sounded better coming back from you than it did from out of my mouth. So thank you.
You're welcome. Christine, will you listen to me?
Absolutely, Kendria.
I'm going to go get some water. I'll be right back.
So the one thing that I feel like I can truly add, there's so many things, but the one thing that I think has really resonated with me is the reflection.
And what I hear you say is that what resonated the most is reflection.
And I say that because one of the trainings that I teach is empathy. And just, I call it the essential tools for building empathy, because there's so many tools that you need to build empathy. It's not just one. But one of the things that I talk about is listening, and then listening to respond effectively. And that's kind of a newer thought or a newer concept of empathy, is listening to respond effectively. And so now I feel like I have something else to add, listening to reflect.
So one of the workshops that you teach is listening to, is building empathy, and you teach listening to respond, but now you're adding a tool which is listening to reflect.
Yes. And I think this listening to reflect is so invaluable, because I always ask participants in my classes, what do you think empathy is? And they give you the standard, feeling what someone else feels. But there is a a cognitive empathy, an emotional empathy, a compassionate empathy. So I really teach on that compassionate empathy, which is, you know, what are you compelled to do once you've felt, once you've heard, what are you compelled to do? So we talk a lot about, we talk a lot about that cognitive empathy. People, that's the first thing people bring up is, you know, well, you think what they feel, you think what they think, or the emotional empathy, you feel what they feel.
And what you want to really focus or hone in or teach is around compassion. And what are you compelled to do with what you heard and gathered? And you also broke down the types of empathy, which is the cognitive, emotional, and the compassionate level of empathy.
Right. So I think this goes back to it goes back to like ground zero, but 2.0, right? Because people's like, you know, just what do? You listen. You listen. But this is teaching you thoughtful listening. And the person knows it because now you're reflecting back. So maybe some of my response is not to respond in a certain way to help, but my response now is reflection. So you feel valuable.
Yeah. And what I hear you say is that this training takes you back to ground zero, that allows for you to just hold space for what's present instead of you wanting or feeling propelled to solve something or do anything with it. Is that accurate?
Yeah. Yeah, that's perfect. And I feel fully heard. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great.
So, well, Edwin, would you listen to me again?
Yeah, sure. Listening.
You're a fantastic listener. So I 100% love everything that Kendria shared. I think this practice really gets us back to the present moment and not very future focused. We're always, I can stop there.
Yeah, so one thing you appreciate of the practice is it's bringing you to the present moment, and instead of maybe thinking about future next steps.
Yeah, though there's always something to solve, though there's always something to do in the moment, but we have really missed just to be with ourselves and to be with others. And that's really what's valuable in this process.
What I think I'm hearing is you appreciate just being present with each other, and you're seeing the value and sort of an appreciation of that or importance of it.
Yeah. And the deeper distinction around what we're doing is like the acknowledging of ourselves and our humanity in the moment, and also the other person. The non-judgment. I think when we're able to reflect back with accuracy, we decenter what we think we know and just really like hold that person's wholeness.
Yeah, so when you listen to someone in the circle, you're holding their wholeness, you're setting aside judgment, and you can really get the full wholeness of who they are and hold that.
And yeah, and acknowledging ourselves in the moment too. And another thing is presence. You know, the consciousness and it's generous. It's generous to give ourselves, to give of ourselves in a moment.
Mm-hmm. So there's a generosity when you listen. You're giving something of yourself in that moment, and there's a real generosity in that.
And it also feels expansive because you now feel that you're not alone. Like you're with other people in a circle or in a space where you can extend a view, you know?
Yeah, I'm not alone. I'm with others, and I can extend myself to others too and feel connection.
Yeah. So, but I think that's something that needs to be distinguished in like an empathy circle. When I did my training, or not my, when I facilitated my empathy circle, I broke some of the things down as an intro and also as a debrief. Because I want them to be able to categorize that in their heads and not just practicing it. Yes, like our it's a muscle memory within our bodies, but incorporating the mental and the body experience allows us to really log it and go back to it with ease.
So what I think I'm hearing is that when you did your circles, you would have sort of a kind of give a context at the beginning and the end. And if you have, if participants have that context, they can bring, that kind of helps them sort of maybe in the process, having that context, not just the doing of it, but have some understanding of what's happening.
Yeah. And it's again, it's a valuable process. It's a generous process. It's a loving and kind process, and it's needed right now.
So you're seeing it as a loving, kind process. Maybe it warms your heart to kind of do this. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. I feel fully heard.
Okay. I'll speak to Linda. Oh no, Alfred. I don't think I spoke to. I haven't spoken to you, have I, Alfred?
I don't think so.
Okay, then yeah, I'll speak to you.
Yeah.
I did. I've heard about listening. That in the circle we listen. We set aside judgment. But I just wanted to remind everyone that when it's your turn to speak, you can fix all you want. You're welcome. It's like whatever you want. If you want to be judgmental, if you want to fix, if you want to whatever. When it's your turn, it's really your space to do it as whatever kind of turns you on.
That's an interesting add in there. Now you tell us that for all those things we say we're trying not to do in the second nature, first nature, you can surely do that when it's your turn.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's the point. Is that, and there's what I find interesting in the circle is when you listen, whatever comes at you, you just respond with empathy to it as the listener. And then when you speak, whatever you say is responded to you with empathy too. So it's an interesting dynamic. It's almost, and there's sometimes when people like send judgment your way and you respond with empathy, it like transforms the judgment, so yeah.
So you introduce an interesting concept and around empathy in the circle. When you're responding to someone, you're responding with empathy. When you're speaking, and it's another issue of importance, and it comes back to you with empathy, it's a wonderful dynamic. And in some instances, it can also change the dynamic in that it's coming to out of that person or to the person.
Yeah. So when I share something with someone and they don't fully hear me, but they give advice immediately, it really pisses me off. It's like, I get so irritated. It's like, you're not listening. It's like, it's painful. But if I respond to their advice with empathy, it kind of helps me stay in connection with them, so it kind of transforms it. Yeah. So I think maybe the empathy is something about connection, a feeling of connection, with whatever comes our way. By empathizing with it, we feel, at least I feel, a sense of warmth and connection within that.
So Edwin, I think another thing you could do in that instance, I'm just teasing you, Hud. Right. Yeah. My advice is, no, so I hear you. You're all about empathy in the circle and listening. And so you're speaking, someone starts to give you back advice, and it does roil you. But in the moment you say, well, let me give that back with empathy, gets you out of that wherever zone that you were in, and also puts back to them and gets the message across.
Yeah, and also, for example, Breitbart, the magazine, sort of the right-wing magazine, they wrote an article about the empathy tent, and there were hundreds of comments, at least 400 or 500 comments on this blog about, oh, you wimps, you libtards, you this and this, and all these judgments. And I loved it. I love it when people throw judgments at me, because I said, let me hear what you're saying, and let's have an empathy circle about it. I want to hear what you have to say. I want to empathize with all that you have to say. And suddenly they became very quiet and all disappeared.
So what I hear you saying is you want to create a worldwide empathy ring, so like in the worldwide wrestlers. So you were talking about that right-wing group and them really bombing the empathy circles, and you actually were in that camp of bring it on. Let's talk about this and let's do this work, regardless of what they had to say about it.
Yeah, and then suddenly, because I wasn't all triggered and upset about it and was willing to listen to them, they lost interest and went somewhere else.
Right. So the very thing you wanted, you didn't get to get, because they weren't intentional about doing the work, and they got bored.
And I've seen it too with, we had one of the empathy tents we set up in Berkeley. There was a conservative woman and a liberal woman came together in an empathy circle. And at the end, they haven't had hugs for each other. They ended up talking about gun violence, but they had a space to kind of hear each other and really hear what was beyond the things that would trigger them. And sometimes they'd get triggered, and I'd keep them in the process. You'll get a chance to be heard once the other, once that person has been heard. And so I just see the healing aspect of it, and that's my time.
Great. Well, you've been very blessed and fortunate to see the healing aspect of it, where you had two people from polar opposites get into a room, be who they were being, and then suddenly at some point they're hugging each other.
Yeah,
So,
I feel fully heard. Thanks.
Thank you for fully speaking. Okay, let's see. I'm trying to think. Have I been a speaker? Linda, I guess, Linda, will you be my listener?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. 10 minutes to closing, it says. Okay. Yeah, and I do want to apologize. I didn't want to leave the circle, but I actually, it was a bio break, so not water. Go ahead, Linda.
Can I say, and I do apologize, Alfred, since we have 10 minutes to closing. I like to, and I know we've all had an opportunity to listen and speaking, but I like to take these 10 minutes.
I like that idea. I like it.
Well, thank you for agreeing with me, Alfred. I really appreciate that.
Go for it.
I hear that you agree that I'm
yes.
right. Okay.
Right. No, you're hearing things I was trying to say. Right.
But yeah, just take time and just go around and get some feedback or questions or whatever. And I'll save my question for last. So Christine, I apologize for putting the A on the end. So Christine, I got it right.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Actually, Christina is a trigger word for me. That's why.
Oh, okay.
It's her name just because it's what I'm called whenever my family is mad. Like, Christina, come here, It's like, ooh, I felt that in my body. Let me actually say something. But I do appreciate it. I think the question that I'm interested to hearing as well is the cultural competency. We've been in spaces or like our empathy circles with non-proficient English speakers. And that's absolutely something that needs like a process, or it's like a disclaimer when there are multiple cultures in the space, to be able to, you know, to talk about as a guideline, and what that means. Because again, it's not only the language barrier, but also the awareness of what's present culturally for people. So I'm interested to hear what that could possibly be. I have some ideas, like, for example, when you're reflecting back and not like idioms and, you know, jargons or something that's very culturally exclusive.
Yeah.
So making sure to stay away from that. It's in other inclusive languages that you could also incorporate more of like a neutral space than emotional, I guess. Going through the levels of what Kendria said. It's more cognitive now, because the difference is there's a
diversity
imbalance there. Yeah. But still you're able to meet someone where they're at through active listening, like take the essence of what's said instead of the depth of it, I guess.
Okay. Edwin, is it appropriate for me as a facilitator to respond, or just
Up to you what you want to do?
Well, I'll try to be real quick. I know I will be real quick. Somebody told me to stop using the word try. I hear what you're saying, Christine, and I think one way to deal with it is to acknowledge it before the circle starts. That we do have people where English is their second language or whatever, and you're right, to not use the slang that we use or whatever. I experienced that yesterday watching 60 Minutes. They were talking about pubs and the oldest pubs in England and whatever, and the guy was talking and he was using some of their language, and I kind of had to, I think he meant such and such, you know. So yeah, to first of all acknowledge it and then ask people to slow down. I listened to Zapata and I had to ask him to slow down because his accent was so heavy for me to hear him. So yeah, I think that for anything where there's an issue, first acknowledge it and then ask people to be aware of that when they're speaking. That's my 2 cents. Kendra.
Yeah.
I guess for me, I haven't been in one. I've been in some intense circles, but I'm interested into being in some of my just personal circles, personal friends and family, to see how that will feel. I haven't gotten a chance to do that yet. So I feel kind of like what Edwin said earlier, because I do utilize this practice with work. It's always me working the circle. It's always me facilitating the circle and not me being part of a meaningful circle where my emotions may come up. So I'm just interested to see how that's going to look when that happens, and how to effectively respond.
I would say because you're so focused on work, and so now you're wondering what it's going to be like if you have on the personal side. The only suggestion I have for you personally, if you want to engage people in the process, is to start with a neutral subject. Like what brings you peace, what makes you happy, you know, something like that where it's not threatening. I've learned this myself from experience, because when I would pick a subject, I have some people that say, yeah, I'm okay to speak, I'm comfortable with that. And then another one says, no, I don't want to talk about that. So, you know, it finally came to me, pick a neutral subject or pick something that's positive and uplifting. And then with your friends and family, just say, I need to practice. I need your help. If they're your friends, they'll help you.
Yeah, no, that's actually, especially in a personal space, that's actually really good advice. Thank you. Yeah. And also, Linda, I just like Christine, it's Kendria. I was like, she's been butchering my name.
I've been calling you Kendra.
It's okay. Yes.
Kendria, okay. Look, I have to lean in to see the little letter. Okay, Kendria. Okay, thank you. I
Absolutely.
admit I will tear up anybody's name. I don't care. It's nothing personal. It's just I something in my head don't work. when
You
it comes
did,
to
and
name
I completely extend grace. I understand.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, Alfred.
And I go by Alfred. No, just
I'm
kidding.
finna mute you. I have the power to mute you. I will do that. Okay, go ahead.
All right. So, yeah. Interesting enough, people try to call me Al. They'll say, "Can I call you Al?" I'll say no because my name's Alfred. So I'm fine. I'm fine. So the thought just came to me now, listening to the last couple of comments, and that's that because of my work, I train and facilitate around being an ally, an active ally, not a bystander, co-conspirator. And so there have been a few times in the last couple of weeks where I'm watching something happen that made somebody uncomfortable. Someone actually said, your accent is very hard to understand. And I thought, ouch, I mean, where's your ear? And I felt for the person who was being spoken to, or someone else had a reaction to the way someone spoke to them. It sounded patronizing. They said almost that. And the other person got very defensive. So my question is, so what I ended up doing to channel my efforts was when it was my turn to facilitate the whole group, was to take some examples without calling anyone out and say, listen, we've heard a lot and we've been up and down. And so let's do some right setting here about roles and so forth. But yeah, I kind of was trying to stay focused and not wanting to be an ally in those moments, an active ally. And I was thinking, what best could I do? And is it my role as a facilitator even to remind folks that we can move? We've done a lot together, and to praise people that we're still here together, and touch upon a few things and move forward. So that's a lot coming out just now because I'm reliving those.
That's a lot, Alfred.
Yeah, and I'm reliving those motions. I was reliving those moments. So, but basically, the point is, how do you not be? What do you do about being a bystander versus an active ally when you see some ouch moments occurring, and they're more than once in the same circle?
First of all, don't take it personal.
Mm-hmm.
And then second of all, acknowledge it and say, let's just stop and get back on track.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's my answer to everything. At first, you have to acknowledge it before you can do anything about it. And I'll turn it over to Edwin.
Yeah, well, I'll just say that it's just stay within the process, whatever comes up. In the family, some of the toughest things come up in the family, the most raw, because you're part of it, and it's just let's stay with the process, keep within the process, and if there's conflict between two people, when it's your turn, you can say anything that you want to address that, but it's staying within the process, and in time, it sort of everything sort of unravels. The understanding gets built, and the connection gets built, and so I think it's very much about just staying within the process.
Well, my question to it's when we don't have these kumbaya circles, when you have a polarizing. So bye-bye.
Stay within the process. The process kind of heals.
Let it work. Okay.
Yeah,
let the force be with you.
Let empathy be with you. Yeah, the empathic force. That's a good one.
Yes,
empathic
right.
force. Okay, I think everyone is back. So Bill, you've got 15 minutes.
Okay. Yeah. So, okay. So I would like to return to the values, and we talked about the values: empathy, mutuality, care, and openness. And again, this is not a complete list. And so we talked about that because the difference between a cult and a culture is that there are values. There are values that extend beyond just simply the process. And so I'd like to, what we do right now is on your reactions, you can raise your hand. We won't go around and talk with everyone for about 30 seconds. This will be a little different. So we'll raise your hand and just respond to the question of, okay, we talked about these values. You may have other ones, and maybe you want to talk about those. You've now experienced the empathy circle. So how has that experience of taking this training changed your experience about that, or anything about the values that comes up? And we'll have 15 minutes and, 4 or 5 people, maybe about 3 minutes each. So I invite you to, comment on that. It's kind of like a essay question a little bit. For the rest of you who can kind of, contemplate it. There's no right answer. Gary, I saw clapping hands there. Did you want to respond to that?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I thank the Empathy Circle for increasing my values, giving the values that I place and hold dear to me more power, should I say, or a deeper sense. Understand that openness, being open-minded, being open is a very important part to my value system. If I'm not open, I'm not going to be willing to listen to what other people have to say, or listen to even what I have to say. So it made me more open and more and more able to receive what other people are saying, even if it's defensive. I mean, if it's offensive, I still be open to it, and I don't pass judgment off on the person no more. I just take it in, absorb it, and what I don't need of it, throw it away. So it's made my learning ability more wide open than it's ever been before. So I don't see color no more. I see honesty. I see open-mindedness. I see being empathetic is important to everybody's cause, because all of us have issues and problems. And I'm not the only one that went through hardship at growing up. That other people have similar experiences. Just because they didn't grow up in the Black community didn't mean that they didn't have any. You know what I'm saying? I've learned this, and I learned to be more open to it by being in this practice now. So it leaves me wide open to whatever the world or the universe wants to throw at me.
All right, great. Kendria.
I love what Gary just had to say. My initial 3 were care, openness, and curiosity. And just having the experience with the group that I just engaged with, Edwin brought it back full circle to humility. What this process has done for me, it has confirmed for me that you have to have a level of care, care to just understand people, care to be, care to listen at all, care when things get out of control, taking care to get everybody back on track, but also knowing that everyone's not going to agree with you. Everyone may not even like you. Everyone may have a different opinion, and being open to the process and that openness, and also being curious as to what did I bring into this circle today? How did I contribute to this circle? And being curious on, maybe this person did have a bad day. How do I engage with them by giving empathy, and how will that have a ripple effect down the line? I may not see it, right? But it may carry on my response to any negativity or just something outlandish. My response, my humble response to that, my human response to that will have a rippling effect that I may not see from that person, but it will surely come back around, because we all need to be treated with humility, and we all need grace. So this whole process has just been profound for me, and I can't wait to give back. I'm ready to give back to the process. So I just have a big thank you to all the trainers and trainees. Just thank you so much. This has been really, really thoughtful, and I appreciate it.
Great. Great to have you as part of a team. Okay. And anyone else? I don't see any hands here.
Yeah, I'll go because I know we're losing time. The thought that came to my mind just now is it's like, what is art? What is empathy? You know it when you see it. So that's one piece. And the other is on the values. We all have different interpretations of values. The importance of putting up those values is that we know what values are in the room. And then whatever someone does with those, so be it. But there's a demystifying piece there and places to connect. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Anyone else? No comments?
I'd like to share.
Oh, great. Dominique.
I think some of the values I wrote in the beginning, I don't have it here right in front of me, but I think it was kindness, connection, which have kind of been my values even with my business. And I've been working on for a few years now, like been building, and then, it comes through again in these circles. So to me, it was kind of just an affirmation that really kindness and connection is the key for just community and everything, and empathy plays into that. So, thank you.
Oh, great. Great, Dom. Thank you. Anyone else? Trainers, trainees, anyone? Okay. No, I don't see any. If I didn't, all right. I'll just make a comment because this is sort of like it's a subject near and dear to my heart. To me, it's the experience of empathy that defines, we try to understand things and define things intellectually to the nth degree. And I think when we do that, sometimes we miss something. And so the experience and the dynamism of being in a circle and listening to other people and opening your heart, that goes beyond. It certainly can be incorporated in care and some of the other things that we said in here, but it also, I think, also transcends that at the same time. And so that's the sort of the caring culture that I think, at least in my opinion, that we're trying to build. And with that, unless there's someone else who would like to say anything, I'll pass it on to Larry, who will talk about the next question. Thank you all.
Actually, I do have a comment I'd like to make.
Sure, go ahead, Lou.
Okay. Well, and what I'm reflecting on is, so everyone comes to the empathy circle with their own life experience and their nervous system and their life and things that have happened to them. So everyone comes with a different level of capacity for being empathic, and even that varies within the person depending on what's going on that day. And so one of the things I think the empathy value of a culture of empathy is just recognizing that people come with different capacities for it, and having and loving people who are very empathic and enjoying that bath and enjoying that level of connection, and then also having empathy for people who don't have a lot of capacity. Yeah, so I just wanted to say that, acknowledge actually just that's a kind of difference that I want to acknowledge too.
Good. And I see Larry. Yeah.
Yeah, on that, I really like that, what Lou is saying there. There was a question and answer series with Marshall Rosenberg, and when someone asked the question, is there a time when someone maybe is under a lot of stress, or they're having some mental capacity disability or something like that? And would there be a time when you just don't practice NVC or empathic listening with them? And Marshall's reply was, I can never think of a time when it'd be inappropriate for someone to practice self-empathy. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Larry. Okay. If there's no one else, Okay, I'd like to, the rest of you can think about that. That'll be your homework. It's all going on your permanent record. Okay, and I'll pass it off to Larry on the next question. Thank you all.
Thank you, Bill. So the next question is related. What do you like about the training and the benefits to you? And what will you be doing next with Empathy Circles? And we'll start with the participants. And if the trainers and trainees will all raise their hand, that'll help me a lot, and I'll do that so that I can see who's participants. It's not that the trainers are going to stand up and take a bow now. It's just to help with this. Let me raise my hand. And then I can see, okay, so starting with Alfred, would you explore that?
Sure. Yeah, sure. Bill inspired me to leave my cult. So today I'm going to call them up and say I'm leaving. I found culture. And hopefully they'll be empathetic in receiving that. And I told my group, one of the biggest things I'm going to do is, now that I have a place to put it, is to dissect the website, all the tools and the resources. Now they're much more applicable, and I don't have to do as much theory as now applying them. So that's my biggest takeaway, I think, for next steps. Thank you.
Thank you, Alfred. And Gary, would you express what you think of the training, what benefits and next steps?
The training has been a very, very good benefit. My next phase is that I'm going to continue to train, but I'm also be training here in Portland in my staff, sharing this knowledge so we can go out in the field and spread the wealth.
Thank you, Gary. And Ralph, you don't have your hand raised, but maybe I'm calling on you the wrong time. Melissa?
Yes, I'm truly thankful, grateful to have been part of this group. It's so wonderful to know in this day and age that there are people all over the world who have one thing in mind: to have peace and to live in peace. And today in the group, every one of us who spoke, one word was, one word stood out, is peace. How can we have peace? And everyone is extremely grateful to Edwin, as am I, to have had the opportunity to come and join this group where we learn to be respectful to each other and give each other the opportunity to be heard and to feel heard. And I'm going to continue with the facilitator training, and hopefully I intend to work with kids and adolescents and be able to help them develop an empathetic culture. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Melissa. And Kathleen, would you share on the question?
Sure. Yeah, I agree with what Melissa stated about how wonderful it was to find people and know that this kind of dialogue is happening worldwide. I kind of took the last few years here in America kind of hard with what was going on. Although I think ultimately it's a positive that things are getting kind of released. But anyway, this helped me a lot with that. It really was very healing for me. And I would like to also continue with getting trained and doing becoming a trainee, and hopefully getting this into schools and businesses or anywhere that would benefit. Thanks.
Thank you, Kathleen. And Rosie, would you share?
Yes, I'm also really grateful to all of the trainers and trainees for creating this space and this training for us. I feel like this came at a time in my life where I really needed empathy, and it was beautiful to be able to be in the circles and be really listened to. And that is one of the things I think is the best part about the empathy circles is the creating an intentional space to listen when that's so scarce in our world. What I will probably do next is research or get trained or learn more about listening techniques, I'll say, for lack of a better word. I feel like here, telling people to listen to me, they'll listen to me. I know of at least one person who really doesn't know how to listen, and just telling her you need to listen isn't going to actually help her to listen. So just been thinking about how do we help people to more actively participate even in their silent listener role by giving them techniques on listening and all that goes around that.
Thank you, Rosie. And Dominica, would you share, please?
Sure. I want to continue doing this training as soon as like the schedule works for me. I would like to keep doing the training and work on being a facilitator and be involved in any groups or any way I can. I would also like to bring it into different meditation circles and other circles that I hold. And yeah, I just think this work is great. I love connecting with people from all over the world and seeing how we truly are similar despite our backgrounds and all different things that play into that. I think as people, as human beings that need empathy and love and connection and kindness, we are all connected on that soul level. So I appreciated this and look forward to keep being involved in this community. Thank you.
Thank you, Dominica. And Christine, would you share, please?
Christine had to step away. She is muted, but she had
thank
put a
you.
message in the chat that she had to step away for a second.
Thank you for that, Bill. Thank you kindly. Kendria, would you share, please?
I just think for me, I think I talked about this in my last circle. There's so much trauma. There's so much trauma in the workplace that I think people experience. And I think utilizing these empathy circles, and I made the comment, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? Do we go home and take these issues to our families? And then we come back to work and we're not our best selves. But where do they all start? So I think these empathy circles will help people to listen and reflect and respond effectively, and will help with some of the trauma that we experience at work. And so I definitely want to see how we implement that there.
Thank you, Kendria. And Christine, I see you're back now. Would you share?
So the experience has been really impactful, and it allowed me to break it down and process it very differently beyond what the training is and how we process it in live, just by actively asking question, what does it mean to do this in a space, or how do I go beyond just the whole process? How do I break it down for people to better understand it? I think that's what was what I took from the whole experience, and also just to see it being, again, practiced by multiple people in a group, having that generous space to just be with each other and extend of ourselves to people is such a beautiful thing to experience. And I know challenges are going to come up as we practice it or take it or implement this in our own workspaces, even our personal lives. But having the tools to propel that conversation forward or facilitate it in a productive level was great for me to really experience. And I'm grateful for each and every one of you for allowing me to be in this space, for teaching me all the ways that you experience your lives. And I'm really just grateful.
I may have been muted, but thank you, Christine. And Sally, would you share, please?
Yeah, I'm kind of at 5%, but the electricity went on. Gotta plug in. Yeah, I don't know. It's highly well, just more I just gained just a tiny bit more of a glimmer of understanding of where I want to go with this. And I just feel like I have to have some courage to move forward. But I feel that there's strength that I gather from being amongst people who kindness and that we hold dear in the empathy circle process.
Thank you, Sally. And now we'll do another round and we'll ask the trainees, what was it like to be in the trainee role, and what will be your next steps in the empathy circles. So let's see if I can differentiate who's, let's see, Linda has trainee on her name. So Linda, can I ask you please how it was and what you'll be doing next with empathy circles?
It was a different experience for me. Because usually when I'm training, there's a script and you know what's going to happen. And but this was a good experience. I learned a lot about myself. I received nuggets from each breakout room. I really enjoyed the buddy calls. There was an opportunity to get a more of a personal, relational connection with the person on the other end. So I plan to use this in my community as much as I can. And I know I'm gonna have to start off small and let it, expand, because most people I've found are a little resistant at first. So it's just gonna take, just have to stay at it.
Thank you, Linda. And Adelina, would you share, please?
I feel like every experience in the empathy circles is different than the one before, and this was not an exception. Being in a trainee role, actually, and the experience itself has helped me nurture one of my core values, which is safety. And this was by creating a safe space. It came as a confirmation that it's safe to be here as a facilitator, also as a trainee, because it's a space where you can learn a lot. And I think that, as Linda said, I also learned a lot about myself in these few sessions that we had. And definitely I want to continue participating in the sessions. And the reason why I'm here as a trainee is that at some point I would like to be able to train some others to be facilitators. So I hope I'm going to be able to do this.
Thank you, Adelina. And Cynthia, would you share, please?
Yes, I also have really loved being a trainee. I moved from participant to trainee this time around, and it's just an all new experience to be doing train the trainer kind of work. I have really loved everything I've learned. I've not only learned from our excellent trainers, from fellow trainees and from all participants too. So I feel like I've just had a deepened, enriched experience. And I feel like the empathy circles are this, for me, it's this thing, it's a circular pattern. You keep cycling through and get the deep experience, but also have new insights each time around. And as Adelina said, it's a different experience each time too, because not only because for me, I've been in a different role, but because it's different participants each time around. So just so thankful for this gift, feeling far more energized and efficacious after our small group, our empathy circle today. I was saying my next thing is I want to use the empathy circle format to have dialogues around critical race theory, but I'm a little nervous. We had a fantastic dialogue today touching on that very topic and around other related topics. And so y'all have made me feel even more efficacious on that next task. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Cynthia. And Ralph, would you share, please?
Yeah, I think there's one other person in this gallery beside myself that knows how compelling it is to be in the circles despite being very ill. And it draws me, this gathering draws me, and what empathy circles are. I'm addicted. I'm signed up to the next one. It can't come soon enough. One of the great things about being sick this way is that the usual ways of thinking just kind of fall away. And I've been deepening my reflection on just what is empathy. And but anyway, I feel we're like at a 7-day conference somewhere, and we've just gotten through the first morning with icebreakers. And so I feel like we're going to continue, aren't we, for like another 7 solid days with each other? Or do I just get this little brief taste of you all?
Yeah.
And there's so many ways to, it's like when I discovered mindfulness. It wasn't like I was mindful 24 hours a day, but sometimes I'd put my head on the pillow and I go, crikeys, I haven't been mindful. And so discovering empathy circles is the same thing. I don't go through a day without, I think I'm more a practitioner, but it just won't go away. Once I've seen it and grabbed onto it, and the training's been so great for that, it's just, I can't imagine it not being in my life. Sometimes I think of, when Jiminy Cricket was on Pinocchio's shoulder. I'm not going to say that's you, Edwin, but I have this empathy conscience here. I've internalized it. It's been great. Specifically, there's a million ways to go, and as soon as I get a tad of energy back, I'll pursue them. I'm exhausted. Been great.
Thank you, Ralph. Whatever version of COVID you've got, I want it too. Thank you.
No.
And oh wait, that's trainer. I've gone through all of the trainees. I'll say for myself as a trainee, I love these empathy circles. I can't say it enough to Edwin or anyone or myself. I'm just totally blown away by what someone, I think it was Adelina, was saying, how each one is brand new. Each empathy circle is like a brand new experience because we're living in the now. So life is brand new. And whatever this empathy circle is doing in our minds. So I'll say that. And I hope I haven't left out any trainees. I covered all the trainees, and then we'll go to the trainers. What do I like about the trainers now? So the question for the trainers is, what did you like about the trainer role, and what will you be doing next with Empathy Circles, starting with Bill?
Okay. Well, I love the people. I find that the empathy circle, in a way, a rough analogy, is kind of like sorbet. It clears the palate, and it allows humans to be humans. And the good news is that we're pretty fantastic. And we have a lot more capacity than we know. And I really celebrate watching each of you, expand that capacity. So, and I, like the rest of you, I'm bombarded with media, images, and things like that. And you all put the lie to a lot of the negative messages that I receive, and I'm eternally grateful. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. And Celine, would you share, please?
I love to be in service to the folks who have been part of this cohort and other cohorts. And that's what I see the trainer role being. It's not so much about what I get to do, it's more about being in service to those who are practicing and learning. And next, I'm not sure. First, I'm going to finish the course with in the Spanish speaking world. I would dearly love to expand on that. And there is interest and enthusiasm from the people in the class now. We'll see what the next steps are. And meanwhile, I'll be in one of these breakout rooms, hopefully with you all. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you, Celine. And Lou, would you share, please?
Yeah, what I feel most strongly right now is just a lot of gratitude, a very deep gratitude for all of you who are here and who've spent time learning about this and practicing it and learning from each other, and my opportunity to learn from you. I think the feeling of belonging, or feeling like I'm part of something that is trying to make a better world, and is trying to create a world where people respond to difference with curiosity and a desire to understand, and a desire to include. Those are things I care really deeply about. And being in this training and being with other people who have an interest in doing that too really makes me feel less alone, and it inspires me deeply and moves me, and it kind of nurtures my soul, So I'm very grateful to all of you, and yeah, that's what I'm feeling most strongly. So thank you all for doing this and being here.
Oh, wait, I was muted. I'm sorry. Thank you so much, Lou. And Anne, would you share, please?
Yeah, I think the main thing that I want to express is a deep gratitude to every single one of you, as being in the participants, as a learning to facilitate, but also the trainees, and of course to work with Edwin and Bill and Lou. It just feels like a huge privilege. And it's wonderful being around people growing, and that's what I get to witness and be around. And if I can lend a hand, I'm very happy to lend a hand. And that's an open invitation. If there's anything I can do to support you, please get in touch. And yeah, gratitude. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne. And Edwin, would you share, please?
Yeah, for me, it just feels really good to be in this group and to be working, sort of feeling it, like there's a real sense of constructiveness, that we're constructively doing something positive in society together. So it just that feeling, a constructive energy and force in the world, and just feels really good, and to be doing that with everyone together, to feel that sense of connection with everyone. I see the empathy circle is sort of like this core practice, and each layer is building sort of a container around it. So as a participant, you're learning; as a trainer, or a trainee, learning to build a nest around that. As a trainer, I feel like I'm helping build that, and as a producer, creating the organization, and just keep expanding it until we bring it to Congress and all the other places in society. Because I really think that what we're doing is transformational, for the culture, and so it just feels good to be working together with all of you on that. Yeah, and going forward is just keep at it. Been at it for 11 years, 12 years, 13, I don't know, I can't remember. Just going to be doing it for the next however long I have, just keep plugging away at it, however many years I have. My folks are in their 90s, so I hope I have that much time. Yeah, so that's it. Thanks, Larry.
Thank you, Edwin. And now I'll turn it over to Anne. And if I skipped anybody, please let me know. I hope I covered everybody. And thank you all so much. I'll turn it over to Anne. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to do the closing this evening, or today, I should say. I know it's morning for many of you. So first of all, I'm going to open it up for any final comments from the trainers. Edwin, I think you've got some things that you want to say, but if there are others, please let me know. Bill.
Just real quickly talk about next steps. I'll put this in the chat. I'm trying to implement empathy circles in schools. I have a Thursday session, or just contact me and we'll have a buddy call or something like that. And the idea is to basically adapt the practice so that it can be used in various institutions. And then we build it back together. But if you want to find out more, just check that. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you, Bill. Lou?
Just a reminder about every other Friday, I do the ongoing facilitators support group. It's not this Friday, it's the following Friday. So if you want to get on that cycle, and I'd love for you to come and continue learning together with everyone.
And Edwin?
Yeah, we've been working, the trainer's been working on these certificates of completion. So we'll be doing that over the next couple of days. And if you attended all the sessions, you'll be getting a certificate as a participant, as a trainee, and even the trainers, we get the certificates for ourselves. I can see Lou's all excited about that. So next week, we'll be having an empathy intro cafe in this time slot. So you can come and actually practice holding an intro empathy circle. We have, and also on Saturdays, for the next Saturdays until November 20th, the next cohort on Saturday starts. And then this time slot, the next cohort will start in January 3rd. And between now and then, we'll be doing intro cafes. So our group that's been doing the intro cafes, you can come and learn how to host a cafe. It's just like being a trainee. You can come and you help present different sections of it. And you can also, it's a good place to come and, practice your facilitation. There's a lot of people that are coming new, totally new to the empathy circle. So you get to facilitate, some real circles with the people who are, who are not familiar with it. So you're really putting your skills and practice and addressing challenges, really putting that to work. We also have on Wednesdays, we have a training design team. I know there's several people here or more that are trainers or facilitators, or doing different facilitation practices and have a lot of skills, in this. And you can come on Wednesdays. We have a group for working on designing the training. So we're constantly iterating, developing it. This is module 1. We want to create a module 2, module 3, and whole open source training. You can get involved in helping develop that. So I think that's it for me. And keep the connection going. We'll be sending. So that's that. We're here. We're going to be doing more cohorts and more of these intro cafes, and also on October 30th, we're doing in the afternoon, 2 p.m. Pacific. We're doing a democracy cafe. So I'll send notices about that. It's like, how do we use the Empathy Circle, calling it a democracy cafe, for building more democratic support, for overcoming the polarization. And then there's another group from Berkeley has asked to do a healing circle, and they're doing that November 6th. And I'll be sending out a notice if you'd like to come help facilitate that. So those are some other next steps that you can do. So that's it for me, Anne. Thanks.
Thank you, Edwin. Any more trainer comments? No. Okay, so let's move on. So today we held a final empathy circle with a focus on integrating our experiences and our learnings. And we harvested feedback about the benefits of the training. And we also shared our intentions for hosting future empathy circles and how we would like to contribute to building a culture of empathy. The other thing is to mention is the assignments. The assignments will be put in the chat. I think Edwin will do that in a minute. Links to the final course feedback form. And also, we would love you to have a final empathy call with a buddy call. And that too will be in an email as well as in the chat. And then if you could all put your current feeling in the chat as our last harvesting of a feeling after the empathy training. And then when you've done that, we'll do jazz hands for a last group portrait. Okay, jazz hands then.
Bye, everyone. Thanks.
Goodbye.
Till we meet again in the circle.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody.
Hope to see you all again.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thanks so much, everybody.
Bye, thanks.